Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Schlage number 39-030. This is a 605. This is a rabbeted latch and strike kit is what this is. And a rabbeted latch and strike kit is simply additional equipment that would be necessary to install an otherwise standard latch and strike into a door that has a rabbeted edge. Rabbeted edge doors are today not very common. They were, in my belief, far more common 100 years ago, or more so, which is evidenced and proven by when you look at catalogs that are of that sort of vintage. You're going to see hardware where they don't have add-on pieces of metal to make it rabbeted. The actual latch bolts are manufactured, or the fronts of locks are manufactured as rabbeted units. Installation instructions are linked to down below. Let's first start with a review of the dimensional properties of this item. The 39030 is going to be compatible with a typical 2 3/4 T strike. Okay. And it's really helpful to look at the documentation, the image, the installation instructions, to see exactly what these parts actually end up doing for your installation. So the overall width of the strike portion that would go into the inactive door or the strike jamb, about 1/2 inch. Overall depth, about 5/8, and an overall length about 2 3/4, which would of course make sense. Thickness of the material, 0.069, 069. Then of course we have our latch bolt piece as well. Your latch bolt is going to fit literally inside of here. Okay, so when you're looking at it, you'll have that rabbeted sort of edge is where that will fit. The latch bolt portion's dimensional properties, about 2 5/16. Overall height, overall width, about 7/16. An overall projection of that piece, again, about 5/8 or so, maybe 9/16. It's going to include screws that you're going to need for your latch and strike. It has 2 different length screws. It has 2 that are long and 2 that are short. The long ones will certainly be for your latch bolt, because that body is going to stand off a little bit further off of the edge of the door itself. The screws are going to look, the shorter ones are obviously going to go right on the inside there, top and bottom. Then of course your longer screws don't go through the part, but they go through the face of the latch bolt. So let's take a look and see. I happen to have a latch bolt here that we can demonstrate what it's going to look like. It's going to look really cool. Here we go. That's what that part's going to look like. I also have a strike here. And the strike is going to look basically like this. I mean, I realize it's obvious what it's going to look like, but it's going to look just like that. Probably better to hold it off right that way. Okay. Probably a better way to go about looking at this would be to let's switch our view to the screen view, take a look at the installation instructions, take a look at the information that we're looking at. So let's do that now. Okay, now this is the item that we're looking at. And first, let's talk about the part number. This is a 39030. This happens to be 605 because this is to emulate the look of a polished brass finish. So we can do this in polished brass or satin chrome. Those would be the 2 finishes available. Now, here's what it's going to look like when it's installed. So it's really helpful to see what it will look like. But it's also a bit you have to, in your mind's eye, take this piece and rotate it 180 degrees so that it ultimately is going to look just like the following. This is a rabbeted door preparation. Rabbeted doors look like this. Okay, that's your door edge. Now over here you can have either a jamb. That could be, that would not be accurate. Okay, you could have a jamb that looks like this. That might be an applied stop here. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. This could also be a pair of doors with an inactive leaf. So you could have two doors. Okay. So what happens is this material is intended specifically for 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Sorry for the gross. 1/2 by 1/2. That's what this is made for. Now you can get into rabbets that are different, but a 1/2 by 1/2 rabbet, that's going to be really common. And the way that this is simply going to be manufactured is you're going to take a door. Having manufactured wood doors in the past, what we would do is if we knew that we were going to make a rabbeted door, we would lay up a door with an exceptionally thick piece of solid lumber out here, okay? Or we would do so in such a way that we knew that when we came back with our router bit and we routed all of that away, that we had a good chunk of solid lumber in here so that it all looked nice, okay? Now another advantage of, so why a rabbeted edge? An advantage to a rabbeted edge is, well, it's really great in a pair of doors in the sense that your line of sight is completely broken and interrupted. If you're trying to look through here, okay, you don't have a line of sight through here. So by the same logic, if this is an exterior door, your weather stripping is done very well, installed in such a way now you really are weather stripping it very well, and there's interlocking weather stripping that will take advantage of a rabbeted edge in your meeting style. Okay, in a single door on the hinge side, interlocking weather stripping really looks more like this. If we were going to show that door, this is way out of scale, but your weather stripping over on the hinge side, here's your hinge, okay, is going to be a rib strip like this, or an L angle, you know, and then you'll have the ability to weather strip here. Anyway, lots of reasons for rabbeted. Very historical in New England. You're going to see it all the time because, you know, Philadelphia, Boston, our oldest American cities, they're going to have rabbeted construction. Okay, now this is kind of what it looks like, and so what I mean is you have to rotate this back around because otherwise you're not going to get the concept of how this latch bolt, how these two rabbets hit together. That this literally needs to be rotated 180 degree, and then the two pieces would mate together very, very nicely. Okay, that's how that's going to work. So you do have to make, you know, your accommodation for your strike in here as well, because you've got that part of the latch that's going to stick into it, because your latch bolt is really straddling over your rabbeted door edge. So here's your center line. Well, your latch bolt is straddling the center line of your installation. Okay? Hopefully you get the concept. So that's why you need to have that accommodation here, specifically in this area, for the face of that latch bolt to go into. Okay? Now, let's take a look at the installation instructions, which I have here and available to me. Okay. So here are our installation instructions. Okay, prepare the door edge. You're going to prep your lock set at the proper back set. Now, be mindful that back set is really the definition of, back set is the definition of the center of the thickness of the door to wherever you're drilling your hole. On a rabbeted edge, that is probably going to be square corner, square corner, square corner, right? 90-degree corners. But backset, just as an aside, if we had a beveled door, it's really measured from the center of the thickness of the door. So when we see the installation instructions, they're referencing what would be the center of the thickness of the door, which is going to be this face out here, okay, this high edge. You shows how to put that piece onto your latch bolt, which we've demonstrated. And the longer screws are, of course, because you need to get through the thickness of your spacer. That's why that is. Absolutely pre-drill the holes. You don't want to split the wood in your door. I see things like that all the time. And what I mean by that is, here's an example of someone who did not do an excellent job at pre-drilling the holes, and it's just, you know, all that work, and then they split the wood. These people are trying, this gentleman is trying to match his color, and, you know, pre-drill the holes. Pre-drill the holes. I learned that lesson very much the hard way many, many years ago. I did it once. You know, pre-drilling the holes is going to be a percentage of the root diameter of the screw. If you're dealing with a hardwood species, probably 85% of the diameter. And if it is a softwood species, probably, oh, forgive me. If it's a hardwood species, probably 80%. Softwood species, a little bit smaller hole, 85%, something in that range. I was taught that it's the diameter of the root of the screw itself. Apparently it's 10 or 15% less than that, right in that range. Where your strike's going to be prepped, you can see here what you're dealing with. 1/2 inch deep. That's because that's what that plate is requiring. They want 2 5/8 overall height. Well, that's not going to work out really well when your strike is 2 3/4. However, you can see, and you have to be really mindful to get your dust box installed first. That's got to be 2 5/8 tall. Your prep for your strike really needs to be 2 3/4 inch because that's the overall height of the strike. It's 2 3/4. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge on 2 5/8. It's going to need to be the height of the strike. And this T-strike that I have on my desk here is absolutely 2 3/4. Cut 1/4 inch more for shield installation. So when you get the strike located, that vertical center line adjusted with your latch vertical center line, assuming that you're dealing with a pair of doors. If not, you're going to calculate where that needs to be to get your latch to engage. You're going to want 1/4 inch additional back because of how it sits. Okay. Your strike is going to sit basically on top of that. It's not going to go all the way across and cap it like it is shown here. Okay. And that's your installation instructions. Those installation instructions have not changed in 20 years. It's 2019 now. That's the installation instruction scan that has been sent with us. So it's a really handy item. I have had people from Australia contact me and ask about rabbeted kits, except that they don't, you know, they're on the metric system, and 1/2 by 1/2 is not what they have. It was some unusual size that it was mortised to. I don't recall the millimeters. It may have been 16 millimeter by 16 millimeter. And yeah, you know, your Schlages, your domestic, your North American lock manufacturers, they're not going to have anything that will suit that sort of requirement for an unusual rabbet is the problem on that. So let's finish up this video on camera. Okay, so that's your rabbeted door kit from Schlage. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can get to not only all of the Schlage products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog and other encyclopedic documents, whether it be templates, service manual, mechanical service manuals on Everest and Primus cylinders, key blank quick reference guides, current catalogs, archival catalogs. We've got historical catalogs there as well. The name Schlage is after its founder, Walter Schlage, who was the son of German immigrants. I think his moniker was the Lock Man. He had what people called him was something like that. He would work during the day for a lock manufacturer, went home at night to the basement, to the lab, and started inventing stuff. His patent in the early 1920s is responsible for the cylindrical lock construction that we likely all use on a very much daily basis, where the cylinder, the locking portion, was actually contained within the knob. That was a Walter Schlage invention. And if you were search patents, Google patents for Walter Schlage, he was a prolific thinker when it comes to things of mechanical origin. Any questions on the 39-030 Rabbeted kit for latch and strike or any other Schlage product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.